From Folly Gras being discontinued to the mainstream media, I sat down one-on-one with NewsRadio 94.3 WSC radio host Kelly Golden for a special edition of Quintin's Close-Ups. And be sure to download the free Quintin's Close-Ups app in your Apple or Google Play stores. And listen to this interview later on iHeartRadio.
Oh, hi there. Quintin, how are you?
I'm great.
What's going on?
Oh, it was you and those 4 nominations for the city paper.
Yes, shameless plug for the Best of Awards coming up, where somehow I got nominated 4 times. City paper.
Right.
You've got conservatives actually paying attention. So one of the 4 actually is on the list for Best Conservative with Tim Scott. I don't think I'm going to win that one, but thank you so much.
Yes.
And the voting. Listen, the voting is on now, right. So wherever you see my name, Kelly Golden, vote, please. And then also 94.3 WSC for, of course, Best News Talk Radio.
I know in the city, not in the city paper this morning, but in Post and Courier, someone mentioned that there was a lack of talk shows in this particular town.
What is wrong with the Post and Courier that they would actually put that in print? Certainly, they must know that there's not only 94.3 WSC, but of course where I started at WTMA. I would say to either the editorial board at maybe Post and Courier or the copy desk, you might want to check that stuff before it goes to print.
Speaking of news, obviously you broke the news about the Folly Gras basically being discontinued forever.
Yeah. Isn't that sad?
How do we get
11 years.
How do we get here in your mind with that?
I think that we've got a digital dilemma. I've talked about this on the airwaves. And Quintin, you grew up with a phone in your hand.
Yes.
I know that.
Yeah.
So there's a generation of, middle school, right? Middle school, you got that first phone. You probably first started shooting your first Quintin's close-ups in middle school. I know it because I met you then.
Right.
And now, how old are you? 20?
No, I'm 34.
What? Okay. So people in their 20s, we're talking about people college age.
Right.
They actually grew up with cell phones in their hand when they were teenagers. So there's this, especially in colleges, there's this whole, just culture of people trying to one-up the stupidity on social when it comes to videos. So whether it's starting fights or people falling on stuff, it's sad. I just want people to be better at adulting. That's what I want.
And I know that something that's very bad that you don't like is about the mainstream media bias.
Oh my gosh. You mentioned the papers, Quintin. Here locally. I would say this. I see more nationally, the national evening newscast, there's so much bias and hate towards our sitting president. People are so tired of it. There's a lot of positive things happening with our economy. And I think that people are craving positivity. And on a national level with the media, we're seeing such negativity. Don't you? It's palpable. And I'm over the notion that we're, the whole group think. I think that there are a lot of, I mentioned conservatives, there are a lot of independent conservatives, I believe out there that one side, if we're going to pit sides, Republican, Democrat, I think that one side of the party is doing better than the other. I think actually the GOP and Republicans are doing a great job of saying, hey, if you have conservative values, come on over. We're not going to deride you for maybe feeling differently than we do about some issues. I feel like with Democrats, it's agree or it's a fight. Look at Maxine Waters. Get in their face. Yeah. Rahm Emanuel in Chicago, he said, forget, what does it say? When they go low, we go high. He says, we're just going to kick them when they're down. It's we don't need that kind of divisive, awful rhetoric.
What rhetoric should be put out there right now?
I just think inclusiveness, We, especially here in the Lowcountry, did a wonderful thing about leading with love, with Mother Emanuel and the tragedy that, we saw unfold. And year after year, the stories continue as people work through that grief. And we showed the world what leading with love looks like. And that's always the best way.
How do you
not get in their face hate? That's crazy talk.
And how do you get through this particular grief 4 years later? Mother Emanuel, the tragedy that took place at that church.
I find interest in following the family stories because from the beginning we followed the family.
Oh yes.
as a community, me as an individual. I know that story will never end for them. You know, they lost a loved one, and that loss will, you know, there's a void there. You and I both have gone through grief recently, with it, you know, in our own families. Right. So there's something that will never be. There'll be a void there. But I find so much because of Simmons. I forget. Love Not Hate. What is her movement? Yeah. Alana Simmons, yes. Yeah, she's great. Yes, and then recently we had the marriage.
Right, of Chris Singleton.
Yes, broadcast nationally, which is totally awesome. Yeah. And also his MLB career, right, in Major League Baseball. Yeah. So I love what they're doing. You know, they're going around spreading positivity in something that was just so tragic and awful.
Very much so.
Yeah.
You talk about void. How do you move on with your life knowing that your father isn't here anymore?
I tell you what, Quintin, I thought that I was really feeling like an adult when I lost my grandmother, which I know you did recently, and I'm so sorry for your loss. I'm so sorry. Thank you. My grandmother was like another mother to me, so I don't know about you, but I really feel like adulting is hard when you lose a parent. Yeah. It feels very different. I'm still going through it.
Do it.
You know how grief is.
Oh yeah.
How are you dealing with your grandmother?
You know, she's in heaven with Jesus Christ and God, so I know that everything's fine and we'll be fine, and she's watching over us.
Yeah, I feel the same way about it. Is there any kind of symbol? When I see a female cardinal, I know that that's my grandmother. Like, we had a conversation before she passed, like, what do you want me to remember or think of, you know, or I'll know that you're there.
Yes.
So it's the cardinal. What about you? Anything?
Oh, gosh.
That would remind you of her?
I know she was sick for a long time because she had Alzheimer's and dementia and, of course, pneumonia, and then she breathed too hard and she passed away.
She's just in a better place.
Yeah. But, you know, my mom being around me, that's, you know, my reminder that is of my grandmother.
Yeah, that's, grief is something we'll continue to walk through every day. My father, the same, is in a better place. I don't know how old your grandmother was.
She was 75.
Wow, that's young.
Yeah.
The first question people ask me about my father is, how old was he? And I'm like, too young. He was 71 years old. But he had complications. He knew it was always going to be his lungs, sounds like with your grandmother. And he had complications from pneumonia and COPD. And he was ready to go. And that's the most important thing.
Wow. Yeah. I know that's something that's the local GOP is trying to keep important. Is the Black History GOP banquet.
Don't you think, let's talk about Black History Month for a second. Don't you think Black History, every month should be Black History Month? I'm so glad that the GOP, though, has continued with the Black History Banquet. It's an incredibly moving experience. You've been a part of it for the last 2 years. You were honored the first year.
The inaugural honoree.
Yeah. And I thought the first year was incredibly touching, but the second year, Quintin, didn't you think like it went... It continues to just be amazing.
Absolutely.
I mean, it's I would say, you know, if we're going to say black, white, we're like 50-50. I was talking with Barney Blakeney, from the Chronicle on the air about this. He did a wonderful piece describing like how, you know, my God, we needed this for so long. We're so happy it's happening. So I know that there are other people that want to throw shade on it and back with the whole hate and stuff. And I just lead with love. Lead with love.
Yeah. Well, let me talk to you about you. What will be the title of a talk show describing your future?
Oh my goodness. Are you kidding me right now? I have a talk show. It's got a title. In fact, on that note, let me just say, a little teaser coming up in the month of March. We're going to have some changes happening on the morning show on 94.3 WSC. So stay tuned.
Stay tuned, son.
Stay tuned. So stay tuned for that answer.
Meaning your contract has been renewed for the next 4 years.
Stay tuned for that answer. There's some changes coming to the morning show on 94.3 WSC. So stay tuned for that in the month of March. And that's not the only reason why I'm wearing green.
Yes.
Because I'm Irish, and of course St. Patty's Day is coming.
That's right.
You know, I also wore green.
You know what I love?
Girl Scout cookie time.
That's right. And I love the Savannah Smiles, but from my understanding, that's going to be discontinued.
So here's the thing. It's up to the bakers. So I sit on the board of the Girl Scouts. This is my first. I just made it through my first year, and they didn't kick me off. So there's that. But what I found out, Quintin, was with the Savannah Smiles, which those are the rectangle-shaped ones with the powdered sugar.
Right.
It's up to the baker. So now, because of the baker, it's going to go to the lemon iced ones.
Oh.
Which I can't remember the name. I'm a bad board member,
I forgot.
I don't know. Someone will let us know in the comments below. But,
yes.
but that's why. So I think they'll eventually make their way back.
Yes.
Yeah, don't get too upset. I'm sorry that I didn't know it was your favorite. I would have brought you some.
Oh, I had some Saturday. Remember? I bought some on George Street from the girls there.
Well, thank you for buying cookies.
Anytime.
You know, this empowers women. We help with the Girl Scouts to empower women to be their own entrepreneurs. It is just an incredibly important lesson in life to help women be leaders for the future. So every cookie counts.
Hustle, hustle, hustle.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. I moved the camera again.
Oh my gosh, Quintin. This cracks me up.
Yeah.
All right, I'll just lean this way.
There you go.
Yeah, we're good.
But, obviously you used to be a journalist. Now you're an opinionated talk show host.
Now, this is interesting you bring this up because a lot of people will say, a lot of people move into the low country from somewhere else. And I kind of have to reset my history in News Talk Radio because the 22 years in.
Right.
So the first half of the 22 years, I was behind the anchor desk.
Right.
I was the reporter here, moving up to the anchor.
Right.
Like, same with you.
Yes.
And then the other half of my career, I transitioned from the newsroom into the talk studio.
Right.
And man, that was not an easy transition to do the who, what, when, where, why, and that's it. No opinions.
Right.
So I know how proper journalism goes, and you do a great job of it, Quintin.
Thank you.
But we see a lot of injecting of opinions, if you want to get back to slanted media bias, injecting of opinions and writing, sort of for a narrative which fits the opinion of the person writing it. And that is called an editorial. You know what I'm saying? We're blurring the lines. And I certainly understand because I learned one and now I've learned another. So on the opinionated talk show side, it was really crazy for someone to come to me and say, all right, well, we want you to actually host the show and talk about your opinions. And I thought, do you even know what I think about anything? So it's worked out, Quintin. It's worked out. But it's been a transition from one to the other. And I mean, my style is I try to give the who, what, when, where, why so that the person listening out there can make their own opinion. But I also tell you mine.
Right.
So that's really it.
And, going back to you being a journalist, what would be that headline that you would write right now about your future?
Oh, you keep coming back to my future. I don't know what the future holds for me, Quintin. I just try to live each and every day and every moment to its fullest. I have, by the way, a motorcycle with a sidecar. That was one of the projects that my dad and I actually completed before he passed. So maybe next Quintin's Close-Ups will be in my sidecar. Will you do it?
Oh, well, yeah, and maybe you could have your own motorcycle company.
Oh, my God, are you writing my headline now? Oh, my gosh. No, there's a lot of motorcycle companies doing with a lot of success out there. I don't know about that. But I would love to, I don't know, stay tuned for our next sidecar story.
There you go.
I don't know what my future holds. I'm just trying to hang on to each and every day.
I understand that.
Yeah, but it's so motorcycle gear guys out there are going to want to know what kind of motorcycle. So it's by the way, it's an 06 Honda Shadow. So it's a 750.
750.
And it's got a retrofitted sidecar made to look, I've always wanted the World War II sidecar. So it's retrofitted to, kind of look a little retro.
Right.
I'm actually hoping to drive that through Arlington, where my dad's ashes are going to be buried coming up in the summertime, because he would have wanted that. So good luck, fingers crossed. And if you can help me make that happen, let me know. Tim Scott. Lindsey Graham. I don't know. Anybody?
Somebody will be watching.
Yeah.
Well, the Honorable Kelly Golden, thank you so much for your time. I really, really appreciate this.
All right. Next one, Quintin, from my sidecar. You promise.
Oh, yes. Right. I'll get a better microphone. But thank you. I enjoyed this.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It's always fun.
Likewise.
All right. I need your vote. Here you go.
CharlestonCityPaper.com.
Best of
Kelly
Golden.
Yeah.
94.3 WSC.